the situation has been calm and the administration has banned any assembly. The Home Ministry has held activist Sonam Wangchuk responsible for instigating the mob through his provocative speeches. Wangchuk, who had been on a 15-day hunger strike, ended it shortly after the violence broke out in Leh yesterday. The government, though, hasn't minced its words. It says that during Wangchuk's hunger strike, he invoked the recent Nepal Gen Z type protests to incite the public in Leh and Ladakh. On the other hand, the BJP has also alleged a Congress hand for the unrest, claiming their councillors incited protesters and partook in the violence. So have political motives fueled this violence? Is this some sort of a template that we're going to see? Is this what some have warned us they will do to get their demands met? Demands for full statehood. Have they been co-opted by political leaders for their own interests to run a political agenda? We'll take that and more to our guest joining us in just a bit. So that's the first big debate on Plain Speak today. Leh protests, are they purely political? Is there more than meets the eye? Also on the show today, we focus on cricket, every ugly stance of the Pakistani players and the PCB. Will the ICC take note and take action is coming up. Later, we also tell you how Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed India-Russia ties once again. What's the message there? All that is coming up. In a striking statement, the Ministry of Home Affairs has accused activist Sonam Wangchuk of inciting the unrest in Ladakh. The centre claims his actions and speeches have disrupted peace and dialogue that the centre was hoping for. So the centre suggests that certain individuals with political agendas were dissatisfied with the current developments and they may have influenced the unrest behind the scenes. The government claims that some actors deliberately attempted to derail the ongoing discussions between the centre and Ladakhi stakeholders, undermining peaceful resolutions. Sonam Wangchuk is accused of making public statements that allegedly incited protesters, contributing to the escalation of the tension on ground. The MHA highlights Sonam Wangchuk invoked the Arab Spring-style protest, which they believe could encourage large-scale civil disobedience in a very violent way in the region. The government also says Wangchuk drew parallels to the recent Gen Z-led protests in Nepal, implying a call possibly for similar youth mobilization in Ladakh. The BJP has also pointed fingers at Congress councillor Phuntsog Sansing Sipang of instigating the mob and participating in the violence that targeted particularly the BJP office and the Hill Council. The BJP has also asked, is this the kind of mobilization, unrest, protest that Rahul Gandhi has been talking about or fantasizing about? Remember, this is happening in the backdrop of Rahul Gandhi saying they want public protest or public mobilization on the ground against the state, against the ECI, against the government. What he says is because of vote chori. But is this a signal going for other reasons as well? BJP has pointed fingers at another Congress councillor, Shmanta Dorje Norbu, of threatening to gherao the BJP office. In an audio that has been released by the BJP, the Congress leader is allegedly threatening to enter the BJP office and throw stones at them. Now, why should anybody be propelled to use violence as a means is the big question. Also because the next meeting on Ladakh issues was slated as close by as October 6th. So what was the need to do this? Was there any instigation behind this? Why are people in Ladakh protesting? Of course, there's nothing wrong with protests or demanding from the government what the local people may want. The people of Ladakh are demanding full statehood status, not just for prestige, but to ensure better governance and direct political control. Protesters are demanding inclusion under the 6th schedule or similar provisions to preserve their autonomy and protect the region's fragile ecosystem. Protesters are also calling for the creation of a local recruitment commission to ensure fair access to government jobs for Ladakhi residents first and foremost. And Ladakh currently only has one Lok Sabha MP with no representation in the upper house. Citizens are demanding 2 Lok Sabha seats and 1 Rajya Sabha seat to ensure that their voices are also appropriately heard or are represented in Indian Parliament. But the big question we debate today is simply this. When you see violence, arson breaking out on the streets despite the fact that dialogue process is on, does this mean that political motives have fueled this violence? That debate is coming up.
trying to find scapegoats and blame it on others, this will actually not go towards peace building.
ये है कांग्रेस के काउंसलर, ये मेन इंस्टिगेटर हैं और अपने कार्यकर्ताओं के साथ ये किस प्रकार इंस्टिगेट कर रहे हैं आप देख सकते हैं, किस प्रकार से ये मॉब को इंस्टिगेट कर रहे हैं।
ये घटिया आदतों से बाज आए भाजपा। अपनी असफलता नहीं बताएंगे कि केंद्र की सरकार है आपकी। मोदी जी, जनता से आपकी क्रेडिबिलिटी हट गई है।
I want to go across to our guest joining us. SP Ved is former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir and of course has served at a time when Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh were one. Neeraj Mishra, spokesperson of the Congress party with us. Desh Ratan Nigam is also political analyst with us. I want to begin with SP Ved. Do you think, sir, that the government has gone wrong somewhere as far as the pace of the dialogue or the satisfaction from the dialogue is concerned, and that is why we're seeing this? Or you feel there is more than meets the eye?
See, good evening to you, to my co-panelists and your viewers. See, government has been engaged in there's a high-power committee which is discussing all these aspects, and even 6th of October was the date fixed for this next meeting.
Yes.
In fact, there was as per the statement of the MHA, they even proposed that if you want it earlier, 25th, 26th could be the date. What was the hurry to create a situation just a day before on 24th? And who is responsible for all these killings? 4 people died. You have more than 70 people injured. I don't know how many of them will also be able to make it to life. So all this, will this violence get you whatever demands your In fact, I have 35 years career as a police officer. I have been chief of J&K. I was SSP Leh. People of Ladakh have been very, very peaceful, very nationalist people. Ladakh scouts in the Indian Army are known for their valor. And everyone in Delhi and also in J&K have a lot of sympathies for people of Ladakh, people of Leh, both Leh and Kargil. So some of them are feeling that the dialogue was actually prolonging for a long time. But then you see, Government of India has to see many aspects. Government of India, your demand for the statehood, there are many other union territories with that the population of, you have over 3.5 lakh. That much population, there are other UTs also. So they have to see that their demands will arise like that. So I think there was no reason to panic. Who is going to benefit from this kind of violence?
And this is also unusual for Leh-Ladakh. So do you think there was some instigation? Because that's what the MHA seems to be suggesting. And if that is the case, then why not act on it beforehand?
Yes, that is a very reasonable question, Shivani. That's a very reasonable point to be asked. Why action was not taken beforehand? But look at, I have in last 35 years of my career not seen Ladakh erupting like this. It is the way it has been, the kind of violence I have not seen. But look at Sonam Wangchuk, as per MHA statement, made a speech which was actually instigating this violence. Has the youth been actually misled into believing that they are doing some this thing for some bad cause, which is not true. See, unemployment is not specific only to Ladakh. Unemployment is there in Kashmir, in Jammu, in rest of India, and today the whole world is in turmoil. Whatever government of India is able to do is trying its best to do. See, you can't just through your representative you can request the government of India to open few more industries, open more avenues for the employment. I think more than 95% reservation has been given to people of Ladakh. Now, government is doing whatever it can do. Can you imagine the 6 months Leh and Kargil used to remain cut off from rest of the world. Today,
That is no
tunnel
longer the
coming up.
case. Yes.
The tunnel is coming, which will open so much of
No, so
connectivity and everything.
what explains, despite the fact, the amount of focus that Leh-Ladakh have got, contrary to what used to be the case. I mean, let's not forget the history of how centre used to treat Leh-Ladakh versus what has been the case in the last 10-15 years. Then what explains this anger? I want to very quickly bring in our Congress representative Neeraj Mishra as well. Neeraj, the allegations are through Rahul Gandhi's speeches, through these activists who may be opposed to the government for whatever reason. There may be some other, links associated, threads associated. There seems to be a pattern emerging where just to trouble the state of India, I'm using the word state, not just the government, but just to stow the Indian state in bad light and Indian government in bad light, somehow youth is being provoked by looking at what has happened in Indian neighborhood, and some of that blame falls at the Congress's door. Neeraj.
Shivani, I'll make 3-4 quick points. I hope you'll give me the fair amount of time which is required. So, first of all, it is very tragic what has happened in Leh and Ladakh. Everybody in this country knows that there is no space for violence in democracy. And why I bring democracy in this is the very fact that most of the people who come on television channels have forgotten the basic meaning of democracy, which is taught to you in class 6 when for the first time democracy as a word is introduced to a student. Democracy is a concept in which it is for the people, by the people, and the collective will of the people, which they instill in other representatives through participation, which may be a form of election. So the collective will of the people is there out and loud on the streets, which does not give anybody a free pass for violence. But the government of India, the vote-sure government, has to understand that people in Leh, Ladakh, Kargil, they never voted for this kind of governance where somebody from Delhi is dictating everything to them. They are fighting for their autonomous status. The demand for inclusion in the 6th schedule is a valid demand because in this country we have many examples. If you take, for example, the Bodoland Territorial Council,
Yes.
or if you take, for example, the other Darjeeling Territorial Council, which is there in West Bengal. So you have a couple of examples where people have raised their issues of autonomy and governments have been empathetic enough to understand that these people have special demands and which can be fulfilled by giving an empathetic forum to these people. And this inclusion in 6th schedule is one such thing.
No, but
Second
how can
point
you...
is-
I'll come back to you for the second point. My point only is that demands are not under question here. Protests are also not under question here. What is under question is whether there is any foreign hand, any illegitimate hand, political motives, inciting violence and arson in which people are losing their lives, and I don't think there can be any, as you said, free pass for that. But just stay with me. I request our guests to stay with me. I want to just quickly bring in what more News 18 is learning. Sonam Wangchuk is under the scanner for a series of serious financial irregularities now. A deep dive into the financials of the organizations linked to him have revealed alarming discrepancies, hidden accounts and questionable fund transfers. A staggering 6.5 crores was transferred from HIAL to Sheshion Innovations Private Limited, a private company linked to Wangchuk, raising serious questions about diversion of what were meant as charitable funds to a private enterprise. Another key organization associated to him is SecMol, also displaying similar signs of concealment and financial misreporting. Let me also go across to our political editor, Aman Sharma, who's joining us. Aman, it seems very clearly that the Home Ministry is also not holding back anymore. They've talked about Sonam Wangchuk's role, and he's also under financial irregularity investigations now. They seem to have had enough.
Well, Shivani, very clearly, though, Sonam Wangchuk is portraying himself as an activist, somebody who's claiming he's fighting for the people of Ladakh, there are serious cloud of uncertainty, a cloud of doubt over his intentions because of his financial dealings. We are speaking about his NGO and one for-profit company that is running, which have serious FCRA violations. That is what top BJP sources are telling us. If I take you through these irregularities, his company, which is the main NGO that he runs, Himalayan Institute of Alternatives, Ladakh, this particular NGO, what BJP sources are telling us, that this has received local donations into its FCRA account. This is a major violation of the FCRA Act. Additionally, HIL has been receiving foreign remittances even before it got permission under the FCRA Act. This is another very serious violation when it comes to HIL, which is the main NGO which is run by Sonam Wangchuk. You know, they are saying that basically for financial years 2021 and 21-22, HIL declared it had zero foreign earnings, but it did receive foreign remittances during this period, which is an offence under the Companies Act. More specific details which are coming, that the donations contribution to HIL increased significantly from 6 crores in 2023-24 assessment year to over 15 crores in assessment year 2024-25. There are 7 accounts of this particular NGO, out of which 4 are not declared. This is also a violation which is coming to fore. Further, the HIL has received foreign remittances of more than rupees 1.5 crore without any FCRA registration. This is a very serious offence, Shivani, and if the MHA moves ahead with this information, there could well be cases against him, as well as a seizure or a shutting down of his FCRA account of this particular company. Further, what they are saying, that the second company, for-profit company in which Sonam Wangchuk is a director, is Shishyon Innovations Private Limited. Now they have transferred rupees 6.5 crore from HIAL to this for-profit company. And why have they done it? That is what the government sources and BJP sources are telling us. That is to absorb, the large transfer of funds from the HIAL to the private company also shows that Mr. Wangchuk has something to hide. Maybe they were trying to absorb the huge remittances which had come in the HIAL, and this to absorb that excess reserve funds which came into the HIAL balance sheet. This is also a violation of the FCRA account, because foreign funds have been received by Sonam Wangchuk in both his personal as well as joint accounts. So all this information is with the agencies, and we could see now, action in the coming days, because the government is very clear that what happened in Ladakh was a premeditated conspiracy, and Sonam Wangchuk has been using this guise of activism to actually get foreign funds and then misuse them in India for the purpose of these kind of protests, which we have seen for a day yesterday in Ladakh.
Okay. Aman, thanks a lot for bringing us those details as well. I want to go across to Desh Ratan Nigam as well. It seems like a long rope was given even as the centre was being patient. Yes, Neeraj ji, I'll come back to you in just a bit. It seems like Desh Ratan Nigam, the long rope was given. The centre was being patient. They hoped that better sense will prevail. But now they seem to have had enough. They're not going to allow quote-unquote activism in the garb of, instigation. And this has gone terribly wrong for people who may have been behind this.
Well, Shivani, the entire Ladakh region depends on tourism a lot. This will disrupt the tourism and the economy of Ladakh. There was clear provocation and provocative speeches and participation by the Congress councillors as well, as we have seen. And social media posts is also full of, news and photographs of the visit of Wangchuk to several other countries, meeting Mohammad Yunus. Therefore, there is a pattern. That pattern needs to be exposed. I think when a government has to take action, it waits. It waits when they come to know if certain crimes or certain illegal things are being done. They wait for a while. They collect evidences. In fact, therefore, it takes time, because everything goes to a court of law. And there, it has to be proved beyond doubt. So here is a clear violation of FCRA. Certainly, violence, the law has changed. Earlier, those who directly participated in the riots and violence were responsible. Now, people who organize, people who give provocative speeches or incite, or although not directly taking part in the violence, are also now responsible and held liable for the crimes where it has been done. So therefore, the government is building a waterproof case so that it holds in court, and therefore various deep investigation should go on.
Okay.
And certainly the high-powered committee was in the right direction. 3 demands, as you have already pointed out, with regard to reservation, recognizing 2 languages, and also increasing reservation and one-third women in the councils. All these things were going in the right direction. Therefore, 6th October was the date. Therefore, they tried to preempt. And let me also point out one very important fact. It has also has some relation to Great, Nicobar Island project, for which you have seen certain political leaders are writing articles opposing that, which directly affects China. So everything needs to be investigated
Right.
deeply, and anti-India aspect needs to be brought in, and the National Security Act must also be brought into the picture.
Yes, Neeraj Mishra, you wanted to finish your point, but can I direct your attention also to the fact that the BJP has very openly said that 2 of your councillors have been found on ground participating in the violence, and they seem to be very much, if not running the show, then instigating the entire show. And this belies the Congress's mindset that, don't let any institutions function, don't let any kind of, dialogue take place, but just take action through violence and through unrest. This is something that has been pointed out by Rahul Gandhi, even in the case of vote chori. It's the mindset that is being questioned, apart from the presence of your councillors on ground.
Shivani, first of all, this comes from an internationally acclaimed fake news peddler. I think the first in the world who was categorically flagged as a fake news peddler. So he has planted one more fake news, and I hope News 18 and CNN goes to the ground and just checks if it is true or not. Because we are confident a party which is based on the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi and which condemns violence of any sort will never indulge in any such activity. Other than that, what I was trying to make out at that point, that I would like to thank Mr. Deshratan also that he has exposed the incompetence of the Home Minister, which we have been pointing out every time, because whether it is Manipur and now Leh and Ladakh, the intelligence failure of Home Minister in a union territory where he is directly involved, it should be questioned by the people of this country that what is Mr. Amit Shah doing? Since 2019, the people of Ladakh have been asking fair questions. They are not giving them fair answers. But if something of this scale and this sort was to happen, it must have been planned. And if it would have been planned, the agencies which we all swear by that they are the best agencies in the world could not make out that something of this scale is going to happen. So the incompetence of the Home Minister also needs to be questioned. And the last
Are you refuting the fact that the Congress councillors on ground had nothing to do with it? Then why were they clicked participating in these protests and seemingly, going around trying to run the show?
Shivani, this is what I'm saying. No, you'll have to ensure and double check that if these photos, because it is coming from a source who's internationally acclaimed for peddling fake news, you'll have to confirm if these photos are true or are they AI generated or what is the context of this photo.
But sir, that should be something that the Congress should be doing, no? If these are your councillors who have been accused.
Shivani, our people have clearly made a point that we are believers of Mahatma Gandhi. We are not from RSS or we are not from Hindu Mahasabha that we'll resort to violence. If anybody in this country who believes in violence, there's a clear example.
No, but Mr. Mishra, you must please answer this directly. What is this business where Congress leaders or even India bloc leaders are, going on to say, oh, Gen Z type protest can happen in India, Nepal type protest can happen in India, Bangladesh type protest can happen in India. Then what is that? That is Mahatma Gandhi Giri.
No, I'll tell you what is it. It is very simple. You just need to understand that the biggest demographic in this country is Gen Z. It is not a slur. So let's not reduce Gen Z to a slur. Second point, when we talk about people's participation, it is the basic foundation of democracy. If the people who they have elected as their representatives are not representing their collective will, then the people in the country will have to tell them that, boss, we elected you for 5 years, but you are not doing the job which we assigned you to because you are our representative. You are not our masters. When we ask for people's participation, it is the basic foundation of democracy.
No, I know what the basic foundation is. I also know how UPA reacted when India Against Corruption protest and campaign was going on.
We gave them a fair hearing. Here,
Yeah.
Mr.
So here
Wangchuk
you're
has been clearly
somehow
saying
here
that
you're
he barred
alleging.
from all the.
No, one
he
second.
barred
Somehow
from all
here
the
you're
meetings.
alleging that despite the high-powered committee being in dialogue, that was not a fair hearing, and somehow this is justified. Are you justifying this kind of violence and arson, regardless of what your grouses may be?
Shivani, I started my statement with this, that this is tragic what has happened. It should not happen in any part of the country. And we have been saying this for last 130 years.
Okay.
When Mahatma Gandhi was killed by the first terrorist of independent India, we said this.
Sir, I can
We said this.
only go by the statements that are being
Can I
made
come in?
today. Yes, sir. One second. I can only go by statements that are being made in today's climate. In today's climate, Congress is not saying people should not come out on the streets and take to violence or arson. In today's climate, Congress is only saying, oh, you know, we can see a Nepal-like situation, we can see a Bangladesh-like situation.
No, we
It's
are
almost
just
like
asking
giving a
for
free
people's
pass.
participation.
It is giving a
No,
moral sanctity to something that you
Democracy
otherwise
is
say
there
you don't stand for.
people, and people's participation is most important, and we are asking this for the country only, because
Okay.
the
Desh Ratan
institutions
Nigam.
which we have built,
Well,
we'll have to protect them.
let me answer. We know of Gandhi's feeling towards Congress when he, at the time of independence, before independence, said Congress should be dissolved and dismantled, and thereafter immediately he died. Probably if he was alive, he
was
would have
killed.
ensured
He
the
did not
Congress
die.
was
He was
dismantled.
killed by Nathuram Godse.
Please
the
understand.
first-
Please understand the
first
sequence.
terrorist of
Things will come out.
independent India
Please don't
who
interfere.
came from
Please
the
don't.
ideology
Please, Shivani,
of
please
Hindu
ensure
Mahasabha,
that he
Okay.
doesn't
came from
over
the
talks to
ideology
me.
of Rashtriya
All
Please
right,
understand
Neeraj-
you are rattled.
Neeraj, you've had your
Die.
piece.
He was
All right,
killed.
we're getting some more breaking updates now coming in. Sonam Wangchuk, who's at the center of this entire storm in Leh-Ladakh. His FCRA license has now been cancelled. Fast-paced developments coming in as far as the Leh-Ladakh violence is concerned. As I was saying earlier, it seems very clear the MHA has had enough. No more long rope in the name of activism. Sonam Wangchuk's FCRA license cancelled. We just brought to you how he has been under the scanner for serious violations of financial irregularities. His organizations are accused of transferring the money that were taken in as donations in public interest companies to private companies to the tune of 6.5 crores. Several accounts of HIL have been under the scanner. The government sources say out of 7, 4 have not been declared. My colleague Anshul is also joining us with more on this. Anshul, what more are you learning?
So yes, CNN News 18 has accessed the entire document that has now been released from the side of the Ministry of Home Affairs, which actually details that what were the exact nitty-gritties that were not followed by the institution, the HIL institution of Sonam Wangchuk, and the reason for which the FCRA license has now been cancelled. Now, according to this document, if I could just quote this document, Sonam Wangchuk has deposited rupees 3.5 lakhs into FCRA account of association in violation of section 17 of the Act. This is one of the main allegations against Sonam Wangchuk. Apart from this, the association of Sonam Wangchuk have gone ahead and replied that this amount of 3,35,000 was deposited into FCRA's account as it was sale proceeds of old bus procured on 14/7/2015. So this is the reply that has now been given from the side of Sonam Wangchuk's foundation. And finally, the finding of the ministry actually very clearly states that the reply of the association is not tenable. It is mentioned, in fact, the sum of 3,35,000 rupees was received from Sonam Wangchuk as foreign donation. However, it is stated by the association in its clarification that this amount of sale proceeds of old bus procured by FCRA fund, although credit entry of this much amount is not found in the FCRA account of the association. We told this to our viewers in the morning itself that this entire case is also being investigated by the Central Bureau of Investigation at this point in time, and the basic allegation that has come to the fore that the amount of money that should have been utilized by Sonam Wangchuk that came in from foreign lands under the laws of FCRA, this amount was siphoned off and was sent to some other accounts as well. In fact, one of the big reasons of the protest is the cancellation of the land that was allotted to the HIL by the Ladakh administration, and this was recently taken back. Cancelled by the Ladakh administration, basically on this very point that for the purposes for which this land was given, this land was not utilized for those purposes, and hence the allotment of the land was cancelled as well. So definitely now the FCRA license has been cancelled, which essentially means that there could be no foreign funding that could reach Sonam Wangchuk in any way or any manner through the legal routes.
All right, Anshul, I do thank you for joining us with that breaking update. So fast-paced developments as far as Leh-Ladakh violence is concerned. It has not gone down well with anybody. Sonam Wangchuk initially had ended his so-called hunger strike immediately after the violence broke out, saying that this is not what he wanted. He broke his fast as well, but he has been accused of making speeches that have some ways set the ground for this kind of arson and violence in the name of protest to take place. Now his FCRA license has also been scrapped. It has been under investigation as well. I'm not sure if SP Ved is still with us. All right, let me go across to Deshratan Nigam for a final comment as well. There has been quick action. So yes, Neeraj was right in complaining to some extent that why is action not being taken if government has some proof. Now that action is flowing very fast.
Yes, in fact, when the government investigative agencies work, they wait patiently and they wait for the person to create a chain. And this is how it happens, because we have seen in a court of law, when the evidence comes, the chain breaks. And that is when the chain breaks. When the chain breaks, then the problem starts. Therefore, I believe the government has been working on it, and you will see fast-paced actions taking place.
Well, certainly. Certainly as far as Leh-Ladakh is concerned or the Union Territory is concerned, the expectation will be that something like this should never have happened and should never be allowed to happen again, even in the name of genuine grouses or demands on ground. I do thank our guests for joining us. Moving on, tensions have escalated between the cricket boards of both India and Pakistan following a series of contentious incidents during their recent matches in the Asia Cup. India has formally approached the International Cricket Council now, raising concerns over what they describe as inappropriate and provocative gestures made by Pakistani players Haris Rauf and Sahibzada Farhan on the field of play. The Indian team has demanded strict action against both players for conduct they believe crossed the line of acceptable on-field behaviour. Amidst this, PCB chief Mohsin Naqvi also stooped to another low, provoking India with Ronaldo's post. While on one hand, India has filed an official complaint against Pakistani players, the PCB has also lodged a counter-complaint against Indian captain Surya Kumar Yadav, accusing him of making inflammatory remarks in the aftermath of the first match that both teams played against each other. The International Cricket Council maintains a strict code of conduct to uphold the spirit and integrity of the game. This code categorizes offences into 4 levels. Level 1 is minor breaches like dissent, inappropriate language or gestures. More serious are actions like offensive or threatening behaviour. Level 3 and 4 concern themselves with serious misconduct, physical abuse or actions bringing the game into disrepute. When a complaint is raised regarding player conduct, the disciplinary procedure begins with the respective cricket board, in this case the BCCI, formally submitting evidence and the complaint to the International Cricket Council. Once the complaint is lodged, the ICC's Code of Conduct Commissioner undertakes a thorough review, examining submitted materials and relevant footage. Following this review, the players involved may be required to participate in a hearing either in person or by submitting a written statement. After considering all sides and evidences, an ICC disciplinary panel discusses the issue. The outcome can range from sanctions such as fines, suspensions or warnings to dismissal of the complaint if there is insufficient ground or evidence. Should any party, whether the player or the cricket board, disagree with the ICC's decision, they have the right to file an appeal as well. But what is possible if someone is found guilty of these offences? Of course, it depends on the level at which they are charged and found guilty of. But action can be fines, their percentage of a match fee, official warnings or reprimands. There can be match suspensions, ban for 1 or more international matches. Disqualification from tournaments or future matches is also possible. Mandatory apologies or public statements can also be asked for. So even as these terror-glorifying gestures have been made by Pakistani players on the field not once but several times, will the ICC punish Pakistan? That's coming up with our experts. Let's go across to our guest joining us, Atul Vasan, former India cricketer, and Ayaz Memon, senior sports journalist with us. Atul, let me begin with you. You know, we have been discussing some of these gestures that have been made by Pakistani players, and we knew when it came to the second India-Pakistan match, we knew after the no handshake policy of the Indian team, they'll try and do something. But did they go too far?
Of course, I mean, the players are uneducated, and they are very partisan. But imagine an interior minister who is also the head of the board, stooping down to this level and bringing this kind of, gestures and memes into play. And even repeating one of his Bukim, their bowler, had done the same tweet few days ago, and now he's retweeted that. So imagine the kind of mindset. And this guy, and how do we take these guys seriously? Because, the head of the board, has got some gravitas, there's some decorum to it. But this guy, I feel, in fact, I don't even feel angry. I feel very, it's comic relief. But and what do you expect from the players? But now they've woken up after a week to complain to ICC. So you can imagine their brain is elsewhere. They're not even thinking. They don't have any timeline, and they're losing on the ground as well and doing all these things, because they don't realize that they have to walk the talk eventually. If you are going to counter India, they have to counter them in the field, and not like this. And India has done right, and I think they are also right in complaining against Surya Kumar Yadav, because it is a clear violation of code of conduct, using a platform to say political things and all, and which these Pakistani players have done recently, and India is right to complain about it.
Ayaz, the fact that somebody in the position of Mohsin Naqvi is also doing what he's doing, and there are clear ICC guidelines for it. You cannot use social media during a tournament to make certain comments, bringing certain matches or what has happened during a tournament into conversation as well. It's really it's really shocking that someone with his position would also stoop to this, and actually that lends you to believe that all of this is obviously happening even on field by their players, out of a concerted strategy, isn't it? It's not really an individual player who just did something. This is all flowing from a strategy.
Well, Shivani, I think things have kind of hit rock bottom where Indo-Pak's cricket relations at least are concerned. And this Asia Cup has actually, unfortunately, epitomized that, because all the attention has been taken away from the cricket being played on the field. It's all about theatrics on the field, which have very little to do with the game. So, yes, I mean, the PCB chief himself is stooping to this level. Obviously, there has been some kind of instruction, I would imagine, to say, okay, you can go ahead and do this if the players have talked about it. But so too, I thought, when in the first match there was no handshake, it was something where, it was, everybody was in alignment with the team management, the BCCI and so on. So I think all of this, the Asia Cup for most people like me at least, I would say, has become perfunctory. The interest of the cricket has kind of dwindled completely, and that has become academic to seeing what else is happening, what other tamasha is going to happen. Because obviously what has happened, we've seen in the past few days, that Pakistan have raised the ante of theatrics.
Yes.
And it's not doing the game any good, for sure. The future of cricket relations between India and Pakistan.
Well, I think future of cricket relations is hardly something that is on top of the mind for either of these countries.
Yeah,
but I asked, you talked about how, India also didn't participate in that friendly gesture or sportsman-like gesture of shaking hands with the opposite team. But, that still was in the domain of, okay, we don't want to be disrespectful to you. We didn't do anything to you on the field. We didn't even share any words, any inflammatory words or any angry words or any sledging on the field. But we want to maintain, our dignity. We want to do what we're doing. I don't think that can be compared with what Pakistani players did. For example, I mean, using a gun kind of a gesture on field. I mean, the connotation of it is it's so downright ugly in the context of what has happened between India and Pakistan.
I think the whole situation has gone grotesque. It's something that is, it's a slur, it's a smear on the game. And the only thing I feel bad about is that players who have actually who have nothing to do with whatever else is happening in the environment between the two countries are getting down to doing all these things, whether it's from the Indian players or the Pakistan players, and it's just lowering the prestige, not just of the game, but I think of the people who are playing it for what I think is actually no fault of theirs, because in a sense they are being pushed into this situation willy-nilly.
But Atul, the difference is that Indian players didn't make any gestures that, could have been seen as ugly or insensitive. All they did was say that, okay, we don't want to, accord you the same respect that we may do to our other opponents. We don't want to play with you. We are here for other reasons, for our own benefit. So be it. But Pakistani players' gestures, that whole 6-0 gesture that even their women players have been doing on the field, I mean, that's not something that will, invite any sympathy. I'm not sure it should invite sympathy even in Pakistan.
Well, I think it invites ridicule and slight sense of pity on them, because if you're winning the games, then I will lump it, because, and if India didn't shake hands with them, I mean, this is how they've retaliated by these juvenile kind of reactions, and in spite of them not actually doing something on the field. So, I mean, how does it really matter what they did actually? First of all, I mean, it's actually egg on their face, and their fans are also. You look at the internet, they're getting such kind of trolling, and they don't have any shame, because I think they were asked to do this. Ayaz is right, I mean, these players don't have any brains. I mean, once they got insulted by Indian players not shaking their hands, this is how they retaliated. They were expecting to shake hands and then things be normal. But suddenly, when we insulted them, the only wrong thing which we did was, when under the pressure of the whole nation of why India was playing against Pakistan, when Surya Kumar Yadav actually brought in Operation Sindoor on the press conference. I think that is where we just lapsed. Otherwise, we have played a perfect game. We have delivered what we wanted to do. We wanted to slight them. We wanted to insult them by not acknowledging them and by beating them on the field.
Even the mention of Operation Sindoor, which Surya Kumar Yadav did, Ayaz, happened in the aftermath of the first match. There was actually no complaint by the PCB till then.
Yeah.
Right? The PCB complained against Surya Kumar Yadav, and I may be, I may be with Atul on that bringing in a military operation, it is against the rules of ICC conduct. You're not allowed to make certain political statements. Fair enough. Surya Kumar Yadav is, strong enough to take whatever action may come on that part. Again, it was not insulting, right? It was not meant as an insult to anybody. It was only meant to let's say, share a sentiment of the entire country. He used words that he could probably have avoided mentioning a military operation. But what Pakistan has done is they've kind of picked up that belatedly, because their players got a complaint against them, which was for on-field actions. So that also shows that actually they were not concerned about what Surya Kumar Yadav was saying till their players made those gestures and found themselves in violation of the ICC code.
Well, there was a gap between the two games, isn't it? And I think they formulated a kind of a response. As I mentioned earlier, they tried to raise the ante and they got into theatrics, which is just so unbecoming of watching anything on the field of sport. So I think personally that this is the whole tournament has been reduced to a kind of a tutu meme, which does nobody any credit. So at the end of the day, both teams have agreed to participate. Both teams are playing. You might have your statement. I personally think Surya Kumar Yadav said what he did post the first match is fine. I thought that actually perhaps shaking hands would have been a good gesture, because you have nothing personally against the players themselves. You have a stand to take. There are all kinds of political stands taken on the speech on the field of play.
Can I just tease this a little bit more? You're saying there's nothing personally against the players. Fair enough, but how do Indian players not acknowledge what has happened between India and Pakistan? I think it's unfair for any to put that expectation on any Indian, that because of your profession, it shouldn't matter to you, or you shouldn't care because you are not involved in that situation. Secondly, may I? Secondly, some of these Pakistani players in the team, they have made absolutely grotesque and ugly comments on social media during Operation Sindoor against India. Yes. I don't think the players should forget it. We're all human at the end of the day, and our country's pride is above everything else.
Yes, you're right.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that one thing deserves another to the same extent or in the kind of manner that we have seen. I just felt that there is a response to what is happening on the social media, and there's been some gross statements made, especially from the Pakistani handles. Not just, I mean, the former players themselves. Some of them very illustrious names have been, they've been making all kinds of rubbish statements. So that's one part. The other is that at the end of the day, you have gone there to play. If India hasn't taken the stand that we won't play in the tournament, once you have gone there to play and both teams are playing, there is the match has been played. The Indians decided that they have to take a stand and make a statement, which they did. And after that,
No.
the stand does not get diminished if you shake
No.
hands. That's my point.
No, it does. It does get diminished. How are you saying this? This is personal now. How can you say this is not personal? Because, our Indian forces are fighting. They've butchered our civilians,
then you
The
shouldn't
government
play the match, no?
our government is at loggerheads. And that means they are only, these people are only at war. And this is, and for people to people, it's not personal. Everything is personal now. And we did the right thing by not acknowledging and not shaking hands with them. I don't agree in a million years that we should have done that.
No, but then you shouldn't play the tournament.
No,
Why
we
did
should have
go
done.
and play-
So again, we come back to it. Again, chicken came first or egg came first. We have done this topic till death, till the cows came home. Why we are playing? There's a system, there's ecosystem behind that. We explained that it was a necessity. It was a ugly thing which we had to suffer to play them for continuity. But once we have done that, it doesn't mean that we will do also this like this. And then the Pakistani contingent was so churlish and so juvenile. They ran after this gesture of not shaking hands. And then didn't realize that they should have complained about Surya Kumar Yadav 7 days earlier. Now India's complained and now they've woken up. So you see where their mindset is.
I think to borrow from sports itself, the rules of the game are changing. India and Pakistan, the rules of engagement on the cricket field are changing. India and Pakistan have played cricket together or even other sports during worse times or equally bad times. But now there is a sense prevailing that it isn't just sport. We're not going to forget what you do outside of cricket or outside of sport too. Indians chose to make themselves heard in a more dignified manner. The only difference is that Pakistani players chose to do it in a manner best left to them. But final comments, Ayaz, given the level of offences, do you certainly feel that action would be more severe on the Pakistani players even if there is a slap on the wrist for Surya Kumar Yadav?
I think the theatrics were far more gross and grotesque, what we saw from the Pakistanis. But I think that in the larger scheme of things, the ICC needs to come up, maybe relook its code of conduct clause and see what best can be done. You don't necessarily, when you're doing this, have to name these two countries, but set out a whole context that these are things that are not allowed on the field of play. I mean, that's the way to go ahead. Otherwise, what is going to happen? I mean, the next time, there might be, India and Pakistan may be playing in the final on Sunday. What happens then? So everybody then waits only to see what's going to happen in the theatrics rather than in the cricket.
Okay.
That's my point. So you're just shifting the attention away completely and saying everybody will enjoy or not enjoy what is happening between the players on the field of play, which has very little to do with cricket. So I think it's incumbent on the ICC. We know what the issues are. Nobody is unaware of what the issues are between India and Pakistan and how strongly the Indian government feels. Whatever the Pakistan government feels, that's, let them find out. But come up with, otherwise you got a T20 World Cup coming up next. And that is going to be played in India. What are the measures being put in place?
Okay,
to avoid the replication of these
I'm
kind of
just
incidents.
Okay, Atul, certainly stronger punishment for the gestures versus what Surya Kumar Yadav's comment was, because that certainly wasn't even objected to in the first place by the Pakistanis.
I think the punishment is just India thrashing them on the field again. What can be a bigger punishment for them, I think, if we continue doing that, they can do whatever, just like Khisani Billi, Khamba Noche, and imagine, in contrast, we've got these statesmen like Raj Singh Tungapur, Jagmohan Dalmia, we've got V. Srinivasan, we've got Ayush Bandra, and here we've got Mohsin Naqvi. He's a Minister of Interior. And look at the kind of stupid gestures and things he's stooping down. And I think he's the one who's asked these players to do this also. So you can imagine, I rest my case over that.
Well, he's the power center, and obviously he could have stopped it or let it go on. Mohsin Naqvi is the power
he has
center.
retweeted the Cristiano Ronaldo's plane thing. Can you imagine?
He's the power
Today
center
on his handle,
in Pakistan,
official handle,
the PCB,
an
of
interior
the tournament
minister.
itself and the ICC. And he's not done anything to stop it. So, there's no question. What I think Atul is saying is, highlighting is absolutely right.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it at that. Ayaz and Atul, thanks a lot for joining us. Time for a very short break. On the other side, we'll get you more of what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said on Indo-Russia relationships, even as USA and others continue to pile pressure on this friendship.
This is News 18 Network. India. India's largest news network.
News on the broadcast, we're learning that the BCCI has now gone on to file a complaint against Haris Rauf and Sahibzada Farhan to the ICC. The Pakistan Cricket Board has also lodged a protest against Surya Kumar Yadav. India has filed an official complaint with the ICC against Pakistan cricketers Rauf and Farhan for their provocative gestures, remember, during the two sides Asia Cup Super 4 game last Sunday. The BCCI filed this complaint against the duo this Wednesday, and ICC is in receipt of that email. In fact, an ICC hearing is now expected to take place in the case of Sahibzada Farhan and Rauf, and they have gone on to, in fact, on their part, deny the allegations that have been put forth against them by India in writing. They might, we are told, have to appear before the ICC elite panel referee, that's Richie Richardson, for a hearing. My colleague Vineet Ramakrishnan is joining us on the broadcast. Vineet, this was something that had sent the internet into a tizzy. That entire gesture, the provocative gesture, particularly amid this ongoing debate of whether India should play Pakistan after Operation Sindoor and what had happened in Pahalgam. And that gesture really added a lot of fuel to the fire. So the fact that now there is a complaint with the ICC, there's also a response by the two Pakistani players in writing denying all these allegations. Which way is this headed? And when are they supposed to be appearing before the elite committee?
Well, ever since those gestures were made by the Pakistan players, be it Haris Rauf or Sahibzada Farhan, this was coming. It was brewing that a complaint would be filed because these were provocative gestures. The ICC code of conduct would come into play. About the hearing, it would be soon enough. We are hearing that the BCCI had filed this complaint. So hearing could be before the final.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Uttar Pradesh International Trade Show 2025 talked about India's resilient growth despite global challenges. What also caught attention was PM's praise of Russia as the trade show's partner country, strengthening the time-tested India-Russia bond at a time when USA has been trying to put pressure on India over its friendship with Russia and criticizing it for Russian crude oil import. Prime Minister's message has both local and global importance.
इस बार ट्रेड शो का कंट्री पार्टनर रूस है, यानी इस ट्रेड शो में हम एक टाइम टेस्टेड पार्टनरशिप को और भी मजबूत कर रहे हैं.
The wealth company.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
News on the broadcast, we're learning that the BCCI has now gone on to file a complaint against Haris Rauf and Sahibzada Farhan to the ICC. The Pakistan Cricket Board has also lodged a protest against Surya Kumar Yadav. India has filed an official complaint with the ICC against Pakistan cricketers Rauf and Farhan for their provocative gestures, remember, during the two sides Asia Cup Super 4 game last Sunday. The BCCI filed this complaint against the duo this Wednesday, and ICC is in receipt of that email. In fact, an ICC hearing is now expected to take place in the case of Sahibzada Farhan and Rauf, and they have gone on to, in fact, on their part, deny the allegations that have been put forth against them by India in writing. They might, we are told, have to appear before the ICC elite panel referee, that's Richie Richardson, for a hearing. My colleague Vineet Ramakrishnan is joining us on the broadcast. Vineet, this was something that had sent the internet into a tizzy. That entire gesture, the provocative gesture, particularly amid this ongoing debate of whether India should play Pakistan after Operation Sindoor and what had happened in Pahalgam. And that gesture really added a lot of fuel to the fire. So the fact that now there is a complaint with the ICC, there's also a response by the two Pakistani players in writing denying all these allegations. Which way is this headed? And when are they supposed to be appearing before the elite committee?
Well, ever since those gestures were made by the Pakistan players, be it Haris Rauf or Sahibzada Farhan, this was coming. It was brewing that a complaint would be filed because these were provocative gestures. The ICC Code of Conduct would come into play. About the hearing, it would be soon enough. We are hearing that the BCCI had filed this complaint. So hearing could be before the final itself. Would they... Both Haris Rauf and Sahibzada Farhan, if they go ahead and say they had not done anything wrong, it was not provocative, then the hearing would happen. If they, accept the charges, then there would be some demerit points, there would be some sanctions onto them. Hearing may not happen. But what we are hearing is that both these players and the PCB would be denying those charges, that it was not provocative, it was not outside of the ICC Code of Conduct. So the hearing most likely would happen before the final itself. This week itself is what we are hearing. But on the flip side, what we are also hearing is that PCB have did a counter here as well, and they have gone ahead and put a complaint to the ICC against Surya Kumar Yadav, stating that...
Yes, what is that all about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead, Vineet. What is that complaint by the Pakistan Cricket Board against Yadav all about?
Well, it doesn't hold any water because the complaint is based on the fact that Surya Kumar Yadav, after the post-match during the post-match presentation in the first game, dedicated the win to the Pahalgam attack victims, and then again in the post-match presentation also he reiterated that the win is dedicated to the Indian Army. So we are hearing is that PCB has countered this and put a complaint to the ICC saying that this was a political statement and it breaches the ICC Code of Conduct. But then again, the complaint itself may not hold water because it's been more than 7 days, and if you have to put in a complaint, it should be within that window of 7 days. So we are not really sure that even the PCB's complaint would hold water in this regard. But then again, it's very clear-cut kind of a retaliation. If India had went ahead and complained about Pakistan had to do something, PCB had to do something. So it was kind of retaliation there as well. And the third aspect,
Right, Vineet, in your experience, which way do you see this headed? It can't be a war of complaints, because here you're likely very rightfully putting across how they've taken these good amount of 7 days to just put out any complaint as a counter to the complaint that India has put. But these are the visuals that speak for themselves, and this was something that got the entire nation talking. In fact, the entire world, the global community talking. This gesture is a very, very provocative gesture. What political statements are they even talking about? We all know what had happened between India and Pakistan.
Well, of course, look, that is the whole point. It's definitely a grey area. The Code of Conduct is definitely a grey area. And this celebration by Sahibzada Farhan, okay, if you look at it, from the point of view of the visuals, the gun celebration has been done by many other cricketers. But it is the context in which, the political scenario, the scenario in which he chose to do it. And he himself, Sahibzada Farhan, was asked about this during one of the post-match press conferences. He said that, it was not something that he had planned, and it happened on the heat of the moment. Well, to put that out, that kind of a celebration, especially during the political scenario against India, it has to be deliberate, and it was political in nature. Everybody knows it. Now it is up to the panel to see that it was political enough to give sanctions on them. While Pakistan would stand by their players and they say, it was nothing political, and they'll try to deflect the issue, saying that, okay, if this is political, what of Surya Kumar Yadav's statement there? But there are two different things. It was a statement. Those kind of statements are always there, but these kind of actions during the field, in the middle, towards directed at Indian fans, directed at the Indian players, even Haris Rauf with his taunt of that plane crash, everything was, again, looks very provocative. But as I said, it's always a grey area. There could be sanctions, there could be hearings, but always a grey area. But clearly what Pakistan did,
Good evening, you're watching The Right Stand with me, Poonam Burde. Ladakh, known for its scenic beauty and calm demeanour, turned into a battleground yesterday. Protests, arson and stone pelting marred a demand for statehood and inclusion of Ladakh in the 6th schedule of the Constitution. The situation escalated when some youth resorted to violence at the BJP headquarters and the Hill Council office. There were police and paramilitary forces that had been deployed in strength because of the protests already, but they had to fire tear gas shells to bring the situation under control.